everyone for joining us today. My name is Marie Ciangela. I'm the Assistant Director of the Teaching Learning Technology Center at Purchase College SUNY, and I'm here with...
Hi, I'm Kim Detterbeck. I am the Art Librarian, also at Purchase College Library, Purchase College SUNY. We're here to talk about Zotero. Marie and I will be presenting this together, so we'll be handing off at a couple points in this presentation. Maria is going to get us started with a screen share, and then we'll dive right in.
The first bits of the presentation are going to be more slide-based, and then a few slides in, I'll pop over to a live demo. Kim, you're going to handle this slide.
What exactly is Zotero? You probably have some idea. You did, sign up for this webinar, but let's get into some of the details about it. Zotero is a free and open source citation management system. So let's think about those words a little bit. By free, we mean no cost. So it's unlike some of the other systems that you can use that come with a cost, either to you or to your institution. But that also means that you don't have to be part of any institution nor to use Zotero. So you don't have to use any kind of institutional login to access it. It's free and open to everybody with an internet connection. And it belongs to you, the researcher. Open source, so it works with most browsers. We recommend Firefox or Chrome. We found that it works best in those, and we'll be using Firefox and Chrome throughout the live demo portion. I will be using mostly Chrome, Maria will be using mostly Firefox, but you will see that the experience is generally the same between the two. Cloud-based means, let's go through some of the bullet points here. We put that it is a project of George Mason University to let you know that Zotero was created by the academic community for the academic community. This was made as a project of goodwill, not necessarily something to make money off of. Cloud-based means that, it is going to automatically sync between multiple devices, and you'll see how that plays out. But if you're using a computer, if you're using an Apple device, if you're using a computer at your home and you go to your institution, use a computer there, it'll all be synced up through those various devices. Not entirely web-based means that you do need a piece of software installed on that device that you're using. So there is a web library version that allows you to view and edit your data, but in order to have the full functionality, such as adding resources, you do need to have the Zotero client installed on that device. It handles various media types, which you'll see throughout our demo portion. And one of the things that we love most about Zotero is it detects your item type and it captures the appropriate metadata for that item type. So is it a book? Is it an article? Is it a web page? Those kinds of things. And we'll go into more detail about that. It will index your full text. So if the full text is available, that'll automatically be captured. And then you can search within that full text. And finally, it's the Goldilocks of our citation managers, meaning it's not too rudimentary, but it's not too intense or overly complex. It kind of falls in a really nice middle ground of being able to satisfy an intense research project, but also something you can casually use or something you or your students can casually use. Thanks.
By the end of this part one, you'll be able to do the following things. So we're going to walk you through how to install the Zotero standalone client, as well as get the Zotero add-on, which is the Firefox term or extension in Chrome, installed into your web browser so that you can actually use Zotero. You will need both components. In doing that, you'll be creating a Zotero account, and we'll go through customizing some of your preferences. And basically, creating your account allows you to then sync your work between multiple devices, which will include multiple computers you may use, like your office machine, your home machine, Apple devices. There has recently been developed an iOS app that we will talk about later. Also, your account will allow you to sync among Zotero's cloud storage, which enables you to use the web-based version of Zotero, which is not as robust, but it is still there if you ever were in a pinch and needed to access resources. Maybe you were, traveling somewhere and needed to log in to view your materials. So like I said, syncing between devices, all of your resources, you'll be looking at a live real-time capture of all of your materials, no matter what device you're using. We're going to also go through and collect items from various resource types on the open web and proprietary library databases, as well as demoing the creation of individual items from pre-existing files. So you may have PDFs on your computer that you can actually bring into your Zotero environment and make use of creating and fetching metadata from the internet in order to create those items as individual items within your library. We'll also demo the integration of using Zotero in the context of Google Docs, which is a newer feature. And for this presentation, I'll be using Google Docs because it just keeps the experience all web-based. But obviously, even before the Google Docs integration was created, there are always word processing integrations that can be installed for Microsoft Word, for OpenOffice, for OpenLibre, things like this. So any word processor you're using, even if it's one of the free ones or if it's something proprietary like Word, you can integrate Zotero into your word processor so that you're able to add in-text citations and generate bibliographies very, very quickly and easily. And so that will be demonstrated we'll be using MLA for that, just for keeping it simple. Next, downloading and installing Zotero. Basically, you go to the Zotero website. You need, like I mentioned, the Zotero application, or you'll hear me call that client. It is a standalone piece of software that will live on your computer that you just quickly install like any other small piece of software. Next, you'll install the Zotero connector. So it's the add-on in Firefox or the extension in Chrome. You will be automatically prompted to do that in the installation process. And just a note about privacy, by default, the Zotero connector does not work if you're using a private browser or if you're browsing in Chrome in incognito mode. You can permission your browser access so that Zotero can essentially read what you're looking at, even in one of these privacy modes of your browser, basically allowing you to use it in a quasi-private way. But that was something that I think has been more recently added. To register for your Zotero account, you're going to just need an email and password. Those are the only two elements that are required. Basically, you don't have to use your institutional email, or when people are switching jobs, or if you graduate, or you're done with your master's and you no longer have access to your institutional email. What's really great about Zotero is it stays with you as a researcher, and you never have to make that decision about exporting content or coming up with some sort of solution to maintain access to your collected resources. This is something that's yours and yours alone. Downloading Zotero, these are the things that you'll look for. Zotero, when you go to www.zotero.org/download, the system will sense what operating system you're using. So my machine knows I'm on a Mac. So I'm going to download. You can see here other platforms supported: Windows, Linux, 32 and 64-bit. Windows, obviously, other platforms here offers you the Mac OS. So, whichever you're looking to install on your machine. And then off to the right, you can see that sort of baked into this installation process, you have access to install the connector that you need for your web browser. Zotero and Safari does work, but I don't really utilize that one. And as Kim said earlier, we're going to really be focusing on Firefox and Chrome. Chrome being the #1 browser in the world. For whatever reason, I've always just stuck with Firefox. And just a small note, Zotero was developed for Firefox. At that time, Firefox was much more open and much more developer friendly, which is why the Zotero app was developed at George Mason to use Firefox. It just was a more natural browser to kind of experiment with this sort of functionality. So first, on the Google front, Google Chrome, Zotero walks you through. Do you want to add this extension? You say yes, install it as you would any other Google Chrome extension. And you would basically make sure to pin the puzzle piece, which I'll show you here, so that Zotero is always present in your toolbar. This is for the Google Chrome users. You're probably aware of this. So you would want to pin this to your toolbar so that you can see the Zotero tools. And it's not really obvious right here, but you'd want that little page icon on the right-hand side. That's the icon that's going to change as you move around and look at different resources. Zotero will change and present to you the appropriate icon for saving to your library. So we'll get into that in a second. So yes, you'd want to pin the connector, which is important. And that's true of any extension. And then in Firefox, here is the similar, basically just downloading an add-on as you would with any other, add-on in your browser. You always have to restart the browser to complete the installation. Here's where I mentioned you can allow the extension to run in private windows. That's a choice you can make or not, depending on how you like to work. And that's a lot of the theme of Zotero is sort of, it's how you like to do things. You can really customize it and set your preferences for the way that you actually do your work. So creating your Zotero account is the whole key to all of this, to making the most of Zotero. So creating your account allows you, as has been mentioned, to sync across multiple devices, your entire resource library. And it also enables you to create and join Zotero groups where you can collaboratively work with others on research projects. If you're writing an article with someone at another institution, you can compile resources, share them amongst each other. Someone might have access to a certain database that you don't through your institution. It's a really great way of sharing research resources across not only devices, but among individuals. And you can use any email address. It doesn't have to be affiliated with an institution. You can use your Gmail, whatever you like. Also, Zotero will ask you if you would like to provide a recovery email, which is kind of nice. And I don't think that always existed. So I'm glad that they've added that. So at this point, I'm going to go into live demo and configure some preferences in Zotero. So this is my Zotero pane. When I'm clicked on Zotero when on a Mac OS device, I'm going to look for my Zotero options up here in my menu bar. And for those on a PC, that might be a little bit different, but for Mac users, this is sort of kind of the way that it goes. Any application you're in, you'll be presented with what that is up here at the upper left next to the Apple logo. In preferences, here's where we mentioned this first sync option. This is where you're going to provide your account information and you'll be logging in using that. Let me go back to my presentation quickly. Here is the first time you log into Zotero, the first time you open up your instance of Zotero after you've done your installation. You're presented with that sync option in the Zotero preferences where you're prompted for your username and your password. So again, on a Mac, it's Zotero preferences. On a PC, it's file preferences. Again, this is how you enable syncing among your devices. And syncing is automatic. You'll notice it happens at regular intervals, sort of every time you do something. I'll show you there's a green arrow that spins, and that's syncing your account, that it can be accessible, on your phone, on your other computer, on your work computer, on, whatever, on your iPad, wherever you're doing your work. As long as you have all your devices logged in and synced to your credentials, you're able to access your library, and they'll update pretty much in real time is what we've noticed. And additionally, we're going to work on configuring your citation style preferences. There's a feature called Quick Copy, and that enables you to drag and drop resources onto a text input field. This could be a web page. I've done this in LibGuides. It can be anything, any text input field, a Google Doc, a Word doc, an email. It could be anything where you can drag and drop text into, and Zotero will automatically generate a bibliography in the citation style that you tell it to by configuring your citation preferences for this export style, aka Quick Copy. And you can also set your citation style preference to be used in in-text citations, as well as generating a full bibliography within the context of a paper. So we're going to show you both of those things. I'm going to basically show you how to do this live. So in Zotero, here's where you put your username and password to enable your syncing. Zotero has a lot of preferences. Under general, I would say leave everything at the default, which is why I'm basically not even going to talk about it. They've just done a really good job at anticipating anything and everything you might want to do, and everything is set to automatically happen for you right out of the box. I've not customized anything here. So I would say leave general alone unless you know specifically, you know what, I really don't want you automatically retrieving metadata for my PDFs. Not sure why that would be, but you have the option of changing any of these things to suit your preference. As I said, syncing is here. Everything else aside from you supplying your username and your password, I leave at the default. I have not changed a thing here. This I also would not worry about. Here is the export options. So Quick Copy, like I said, allows you to drag and drop onto any text box. And so Zotero does a nice job explaining what that is. I have this set at MLA. However, you see, you can choose from any of the styles here. And these are just the ones that are the most commonly used. Zotero is excellent in that if you don't see what you need here, there are ways of getting other citation styles. So to do that, in the Cite section, these are the ones that are available. You can also, there are ways of updating this list. But if you notice that you're working in a very specific style that you don't see represented here, you can get additional styles. You could click the plus sign here or click on Get Additional Styles. And you can choose from, you see here, there's 10,307 styles. And if I just check the Show Only Unique Styles, that goes to 2,489 styles. And the example, we realized, why are they changing? Some citation styles are built off of an existing style. So the example we were looking at was the journal specific style Nature and Nature Biotechnology and Nature Chemistry, but they all use one instance of independent Nature style. So if I knew I needed to use that, I could simply type this in and you see there is only one instance of Nature. And I guess there actually are a few other ones that have different output styles, but you see everything you hover over gives you this nice little preview to make sure, yes, this is in fact the one I want to use. Another way I would frame this in like a previous workshop, like years ago, someone was working in a very specific journal that had it was an arachnid journal. And there was a very specific spider output format that they wanted to see used in this arachnid journal. And I believe the person actually contacted Zotero and worked with them to create that citation style output so that it could be added and available in the repository of available citation output styles. So it is really great to see that they are so inclusive of different kinds of styles that someone might need to use. And they kind of don't care how niche it is because, if you contact Zotero.org, and send them an email, they'll work on that. Again, out of goodwill. So here is another way of, under this advanced setting, miscellaneous, you're able to update your translator. So translators are the mechanisms that examine the content you're looking at. And we're going to get into this now as we start collecting some resources. So the mechanism that examines the content for what exactly are we looking at to capture, to bring into our library of resources. So first, before we get into the actual collecting of the content, I'd like to just show you here on the left-hand side. So this is the default view of Zotero. You notice you have a My Library, which comes automatically with a My Publications. Duplicate items, in case you brought in something twice, it will tell you file. Here are two things that are the same: unfiled items and a trash bin. The icon here for new collection, depending on how you like to work, you can create collections of different items that you'd like to organize your library in. So here I'm going to create an articles collection, which is basically just a way of saying I'm creating a folder. So I'm creating my articles folder. It's considered a collection. In addition to creating just collections, I can also create a new sub-collection that I can file within that existing collection. So this can be, whatever I want it to, specific articles. So now I have this sort of nested thing going. I can drag and drop to change the positions of these things, but you'll notice that Zotero is forcing alphabetization of this. If I wanted to reorganize these things, I could simply say, rename my collection. If I wanted this to appear in the second position, I could apply, that didn't work, but I could apply if I made this an actual second collection. So I'm going to add a new collection and I want it to be books. So now I have books and articles. But if I wanted this to be after books, I know this is like probably really hard to watch, but using numerical things, I can force where these things live more so. So as you can see, I'm dragging and dropping and collapsing things into and out of these folders, which is not super helpful, but for the purposes of this, but I want you to see that you can create different collections for your organizational style, however you like to. You may want to do things by year, by topic, by class. So I'm just going to delete this collection and I'm going to create one for books. And we're just going to keep this more simple, and we can easily rename. So you can sort of force a hierarchy if you add numbers, but I'm not going to do that for right now. So you'll see things are going to alphabetize automatically, which is kind of nice. And again, right clicking on that allows you to get a little more granular if you'd like to change things around. So now I'm going to collect some resources I've already got sort of pre-opened here in my browser. So if I can move this away, I can see. So here we're looking at a YouTube video. And the thing to kind of train your brain to do is to look to the upper right-hand side. And the first couple times you do this, it's a little overwhelming. There's a lot on the screen. You see your typical address bar, any sort of other browser add-ons you have. Like I have Ghostery running on here to like block cookies and tracking things. I have my snipping tool to take a screenshot, but to the right, I have this little, looks like, how webcams used to look back in the day. And it's giving me this save to Zotero and it parentheses YouTube. So if I do that, I'm going to open up my Zotero pane and hopefully you'll be able to see this. And now where I place this, if I'm in my Zotero, I'm just going to go into my main library. But if I was sitting in my articles area, it would add it to articles and books. So I'm just going to be in main library for right now. And I'm going to click on Save to Zotero. Here it's going to see, I have more options here if I want to designate where I want that to go. But now we see it's saving to Zotero. And if I pop back over here, now I have how to use Zotero and this video. Let me expand this a little bit. Make this a bit tighter. Now I have all these fields, and Zotero is intelligent enough to recognize the item type and read it as a video. It populated the title, the director, which it's just reading as who has, produced or created this work in it. And, it doesn't necessarily care that it's a YouTube video. It's just reading it as a video. And this abstract, which is obviously feeding from the show more area here in the video. So now in Zotero, I have all this information populated, the date I accessed it, the URL from which I got it, which is actually, really nice. And I'm able to clean this up just simply by clicking. Say I don't need any of this stuff. Depending on what you're doing with this research, how you're using these resources, you can edit all of these fields to be more applicable to what you need when you generate your citation and your bibliography. And Kim will probably talk more about that. But for right now, I'm just going to leave this alone. And, if there was an error here, or if I needed to clean up punctuation or something, I can edit all of this and save my changes, and that will be saved here. Additionally, I can file this resource. So if I wanted to file this, if I want to have a videos folder, and I want to make sure that this shows up in my videos folder, I just simply drag and drop. You see the plus arrow. So now I have this in my main library, not in articles, not in books, but in videos. And again, to be able to interact with it, to enter or change information, you just simply click on the resource. So I'm going to just collect a few more various items. So here we have a Politico article about monkeypox, unfortunately. And you'll notice the icon changed from before. We were looking at a YouTube little webcam icon. Now I have a little page icon. So this is, Zotero is reading this as a web page. And when we capture this, it's going to go right into my Zotero library. Now I noticed it did not capture any authors. So this is where Zotero cannot replace your brain. I believe there are many authors on this article. So here in Zotero, you would want to manually input the authors, and I could add as many as I needed with these plus or minus signs. I can continue to add authors to this entry, which I'm not going to take the time to do right at this minute. But I do want to also show you Zotero takes a snapshot of this website as it exists today. And this is a local file that gets stored in my Zotero library. So you'll notice on your computer, you'll have a Zotero folder. This is a stored snapshot. So let's say this title changes or something about this page changes. You know, in this age of misinformation and disinformation, this is actually really a valuable tool because you can preserve information on the internet rather than, you know, go to a Wayback Machine or something. You can preserve the content as it appears right now today at 4:30 on June 7th. And so that's kind of a really nice feature. So if you want to capture books, let's look at the upper right-hand corner. We can see the icon has changed to a little book icon. So again, things to know, kind of the reprise of this is that the refrain is that Zotero can't replace your brain. So we're going to go ahead and add this to the Zotero library and see how it does with capturing the metadata for this book item. And in this example, we have the title appearing this way and, you know, attributes it to ACRL. Well, let me check that against Amazon, because sometimes Amazon surprisingly has really good metadata for book items. And it recognizes that I'm looking at this entry and it is a book. So I'm going to capture that and then we can compare the two here. So Amazon attributes it to ALA, whereas WorldCat attributes this as the publisher for ACRL. So you can kind of, and you see the titles come over differently. So you can reconcile these differences by checking against, you know, authoritative sources and using the one that works best, you know, that is actually most accurate. And again, here is because we're looking at a website, captures an Amazon link that I can reference again if I need to look back at that information. And we're going to get another article here. Here is a rolled up little newspaper article. It's kind of hard to see. It's a bit faint in the browser. If you have a browser with more contrast in the, like if your theme is a bit darker, this might stand out a bit more, but it's a little rolled up newspaper. So Zotero recognizes this is NPR, this is a news outlet. So let me go ahead and add that. And you see a snapshot's coming over as well. So here I have this article. Now I can file these things, article going in here. I have these two books. I can put them in books. So now I have some stuff in my various folders or collections, which again, you can also even parse out further and create sub-collections. And if I need to change any aspect of what is here, I can do so by clicking on the item and changing any of these attributes. So something that would be important to mention now is item type. So Zotero did a great job recognizing this was a newspaper article, but you have all of these various item types that are available, including conference paper, book sections, you know, a bill, an interview, an IM. All of these different item types are available for you. And if Zotero gets it wrong, you can simply change it. And then you'll be presented with different metadata fields that you can populate with accurate information. Again, can't replace your brain. It does the best job it can at sort of gleaning the information that it has access to, but that's not always 100%. So with local files, and I guess the Politico article, which I didn't get properly. So then this Politico article doesn't bring over the, did I not capture that? Oh, I guess I didn't. So I'm going to grab this. Oh, no, I did. Where'd it go? I didn't file it. There we go. So in here, there was an issue with this. Oh, no, sorry. I think it was the WorldCat one. The URL doesn't come over. That's right. So if I needed to capture the URL of this WorldCat entry, which is back here, I would have to manually copy and paste this into Zotero, which I can do very easily here. So now I have that. Again, there is some personal touch you might have to put on things in order to have it be correct for the purposes of generating an actual real bibliography. But you are able to tweak and change all of this information. And I think that's what I had to mention about that. Kim, did you want to hop in here?
Yeah, thanks, Marie. And here's my Zotero library. Marie and I are in different states. We're using completely different computers, but everything that Marie saved in her section is all here on mine, because this is, like we're talking about, is cloud-based, and it has synced up. For the purposes of this presentation, Marie and I are sharing a Zotero account. So that's why we can save to the same places. What I'm going to talk to you guys about is collecting resources from library sources. So this is more of your traditional research places. I gave Marie a harder job of asking Zotero to interpret web sources, which, as you saw, there's a lot of dynamism on the web. Zotero has to work a little bit harder to interpret where that metadata is and what the metadata is. With article databases, it's a little bit more straightforward because where the metadata is in a more predictable place. So I want you guys to see, here's a regular library database. We're going to show you the biggies: ProQuest, EBSCO, JSTOR, and then I'm going to go into some ebook collections and using ArtStore and Canopy. So here's how you can view it within your results screen. You can see here that my Zotero icon is a folder. This is nice because if you have a bunch of results on your screen that you want to save at one time, you don't have to individually go into them. If you click the folder, you'll see that you can check these, all of them, a couple of them, and it'll save that to wherever you have highlighted. See here, I'm doing some article stuff. So I'm going to come into Zotero and click on articles because I know I'm going to be saving articles and I want them filed as such. Because this is highlighted, that's where Zotero is going to save because it's highlighted. If I had books highlighted, it would save it there. But as Marie demonstrated, it's very easy to drag and drop. So there's, mistakes are very easy to rectify. So if you wanted the scholarly journal article about Zotero, how fun, you'll see that my Zotero icon changes to a little article looking thing. You click on it, same kind of thing that, we were just looking at. And here's what's nice is your PDF comes over. So you see here your item type, all the information, it brings the entire abstract over, and all the things that we would need to cite an academic journal article: the volume, the issue, the pages, the dates, all that type of information that it wouldn't save for an NPR article or a regular website or a YouTube video. And this full text PDF will live here forever. So you never have to go hunting and searching for that. And you'll see you have your URL, and it'll automatically put that proxy in front of that URL as well, so that you will be able to get through to that proxy. Just to show you how cleanly it comes over, here's EBSCO. This is Academic Search Complete, but you can see how Zotero has really done a good job at adapting to the ProQuest and EBSCO interfaces. You can grab your articles, and you can just very easily capture that within your library. It's going to live there and interpret that where this will live and get all of that data saved for you. JSTOR, again, it works very similarly. Here it is. It's recognizing that it's a journal article. We're saving that in articles. There is that PDF for you. So you might also have a article that you received by email from a colleague, or you downloaded from your course's LMS, and it lives on your computer, and you're like, okay, I want to get that into my Zotero. How do I do that? Drag and drop. That's always your answer. So here, let's say I have this article that was delivered to me by Marie. She sent this to me via email. So I just take it from my computer, wherever it lives on your computer, drag it and drop it, and here it is. And here it comes in looking like that. And Zotero automatically, as I was talking just now, it interpreted the metadata from that PDF. So when it changed the name of it and it provided that parent entry for you. So look at that, like it did it so beautifully. Couldn't ask for a better job. So it was able to read the ones and zeros behind that PDF and say, this is a journal article, here's a title, here's the author, and here's all of that information that it has for us. So I was able to easily do that. Very simple. I will show you what happens when it's not so simple. So that's like your article databases. I could demo Gale for you. We could do Taylor and Francis, whatever. They all work generally the same way. While we're talking about articles and stuff, we can have a word here about discovery layers. So by discovery layer, I mean your EBSCO discovery layer, maybe you're an Alma Primo campus, if you're using WorldCat's discovery layer. They all work a little bit differently, but the thing to remember and how I teach my students this is that your discovery layer more often than not, is connecting you to the PDF or to that full text, whether or not it is in a proprietary database or it is an open source publication that your discovery layer is helping you discover. I generally don't save articles directly from the discovery layer. I will save them from wherever I'm getting the full text, so that full text comes over. So if I'm seeing my results and the multiple places that my link resolver is telling me to go, I'm going to go to one of them and save it from there. There's nothing wrong with saving it from your discovery layer, but I find from a collecting that full text perspective, it's better to go where that full text lives and save it from there. Let's talk about ebooks. Again, I have the biggies here, the ebook collections that your institution might have. At purchase, we have a couple. We certainly don't have as many as I would love that we have, but you'll see here, it's recognizing that something is going on here. Here is the ebook. Depending on what it is, you may have to do some correcting. So for this one, it's thinking something is happening here, is thinking that it's not a book, right? It's coming over as a journal article, so it's not interpreting that super correctly. ProQuest, you'll see that it does a little bit of a better job with that. So here you can see that the book icon, it's recognizing that this is a book. And since I save that to my articles, let's just move that over to books because that's what it is. And when you're dealing with books, if you come into the PDF full text, and if you want to save a particular chapter, you have a couple options depending on your ebook vendor. So if you come in here, you can save some pages of particular chapters. And with here, I won't have my computer do this for you live, but you can save this chapter. And what's going to happen is it's going to look like this. So it's going to come over as a PDF that lives on my computer. And I can drag and drop that in, right? And unlike the other PDF, I'm going to try, it didn't automatically get any data for me like it did for that other one. So I'm going to try and force it to do that. So I can right click, retrieve metadata from PDF. I'm going to hope that EBSCO is going to do me a solid and have some metadata. It doesn't. So I have an option here. I can go to the book itself, save the book to the entire book to my books sub collection, and then I can nest that chapter underneath of it, or I can right click on it and I can create a parent item and I can do a manual entry and I can manual entry that as a book section. And then in here, I can copy and paste the book section information. So the title of the section, the title of the book, and all the things that I would need. And then that PDF would be nested underneath this book section. So similarly to, how the web is working, Zotero is trying very, very hard to get that metadata and interpret it for you, but it's all dependent on how well the thing that you're retrieving it is able to be read by this piece of software. ProQuest, on the other hand, does a much more beautiful job. So prior to this presentation, I downloaded just this chapter. As you can see here it's living here as an individual book section. If I drag and drop it over into my books, it automatically detected that it was a chapter. It made the book section for me and it read all of that because the ProQuest PDF download contains all that information on the backside of it, and the EBSCO doesn't do it so well. So you're kind of having to, as you go through this process, and if you become a heavy like user, you'll know which one of your databases plays a little bit better with that. So let's talk about some non-text-based things. I'm an art librarian in my normal day-to-day. I use ArtStore all the time. If you're not familiar with ArtStore, it's a database of images. A lot of them is art, but not everything. Zotero does have an artwork item type. However, the way that a lot of these databases are set up, it's unable to interpret it as such, and it will just save it as a website. So if we take something like this Amy Silman painting, she's a contemporary painter, and you save it, it's going to, should interpret this as a website. There we go. It's going to just save it as a web page to your library, which is not exactly right? It doesn't bring any data over for you. It's not doing a really great job. So here you have a couple options. You can manually save that PDF to your computer by downloading it, like I did here, right? And my suggestion would be to do that, drag it over, and then from here, do a similar thing to what I did before, generate your parent item, generate it manually, click your artwork, and fill in the appropriate data using copy and paste or whatever from ArtStore to get that metadata perfect how you want it. You could also, do a couple different things. You can find this painting on the web, which maybe will have a more easily digestible metadata. One way that kind of works is with Canopy. And doesn't switch to Firefox here because our instance of Canopy works better in Firefox. It's just a purchase thing. It has nothing to do with Zotero. But if you wanted to save this, you'll see that Zotero is detecting that it's a film. It looks like a little film strip here. And if you save it, it's coming over as a website. So you can change this to film. But what we've found is that it does a really nice job reading film, television metadata from like IMDb. And there's a lot of really good metadata on here that it has a lot easier time reading than from something like Canopy, which is a little bit more locked down. So we have found that if you save it this way, it knows it's a film. It saves all those things like your director, just like distribution company. And then in the URL, because Canopy is how you can actually view this, you can take your URL here and add it here so you have it there, because IMDb isn't providing you with a place to actually view it. So that's just a little bit of how Zotero is able to capture from within your like proprietary databases and other things like that. Maria's going to finish us off with connecting to Google Docs and actually creating a bibliography.
Alrighty. So quickly, just to show you in the remaining minutes we have here, connecting Zotero to your Google Docs instance. Basically, when you open Google Docs, you'll automatically in your file bar menu area see Zotero listed within there. And all of these options, add edit citation, add a note, add edit bibliography. But what you need to do first is in the center here, you need to permission Zotero access to your Google account. So yes, it's okay if Zotero talks to my Gmail account and Zotero wants to access your Google Docs account. Is that fine? Sure, no problem. I click allow. So creating in-text citations and bibliographies in Google Docs, it's the same basically as in Microsoft Word. I'll show you how I prefer using kind of the classic view. I find it easier to navigate, and then doing a quick drag and drop of a single item and dragging and drop a bunch of items into a text field, aka into my Google Doc, as well as generating a bibliography from the items that I'm going to cite in my Google Doc. So I'm going to pop over to a demo document. So this is just an Ipsum, Latin thing I got from the internet. So here you see my file bar. I have access to Zotero because I've already set up my account to talk to my Zotero instance. I can add edit. And so what this does is it opens up my Zotero area, and it gives me this bar, which did not display properly. So that's cool. Okay. Turns into this red bar, which is the newer version of the Zotero integration that works with Google Docs. I prefer to go to classic view. So I click on the Z and I go to classic view. This is more what I'm familiar with. I've been using Zotero for a long time. This is how I remember it. And as you can see, as Kim and I have worked through the session, we've accumulated these various item types and various resources. So I can select wherever I positioned my cursor, I'm now going to insert a citation. So let's say, I want to cite, I'm going to go to my books here, and I want to cite page 45 of this book. If I was selecting multiple resources in a particular citation, because that paragraph I touched on a bunch of different things, I could select multiple sources and it would ask me for all of them. So for right now, I'm just going to insert one thing. So page 44 of this particular book. And so you'll see Zotero is doing things, and Firefox jumps here, and now you see automatically inserted this Field and Gordon page 45. Because in the setup, I had told my Zotero instance we're using MLA, that is what it is doing. Additionally, I'm just going to throw in kind of haphazardly because we're running really low on time. Again, I prefer the classic view, so I toggle to that. I'm going to get a few articles put in here, page 1. It's going to kind of, it causes a little worry, like why, and then once Firefox bounces, I know that it's done what it was supposed to do. So there's my second citation, and I'm just going to put my cursor here, and these can be within the text. So I'm going to actually put one right here. Zotero, add edit citation, pop over to classic view, page 25, whatever. Firefox bounces, and here I have that citation, and we're just one more. So Zotero, add edit. I'm going to cite this video. Oh, whoops. Where'd my bar go? Oh, geez. Now I'm in the weeds. There it is. Classic view. I'm going to cite this film. Firefox bounces, telling me that it's in there. So there it is. Okay, that's weak because you see there's really not much to that citation. However, let's now say I'm ready to generate my bibliography. I simply place my cursor wherever I want. I go to Zotero. So now, again, I have these handful of ones sprinkled throughout the document. I don't want to add or edit a citation, but I can do that. But what I want to do is really add my bibliography. Whoops. So now I just simply clicked add bibliography, and here is my alphabetized MLA style bibliography. Likewise, and that is because the information that I populated here by using the connection and not actually typing this information in is being extracted from my Zotero library. Similarly, I could simply open my Zotero library and I can manually select, and this is using the quick copy output that we specified in my preferences. I can drag and drop onto my text field, which could, again, be anything. It could be an email. It can be, I'm not sure why this is all bold, but again, we can fix that up. But I can drag and drop this information, because I had bold applied, into my text field. In this case, it just happens to be, this document. And now it's not alphabetized because I'm dragging and dropping individually, but this is another way where you can easily generate a bibliography of as many things as you want, or a one-off, depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
Thank you all. Thanks for coming.
Thank you all so much.